Så er vi klar til det 5. foredrag i dag med Nina Borgström fra Arkitekter. Og jeg ved ikke om fik jeg sagt det rigtigt? Nina Borgström?
Ja, jättebra.
Det okay.
Då kör jag den här.
Og det er faktisk et foredrag, jeg har glædet mig rigtig meget til, fordi det nemlig handler omkring den her proces med at gå fra 2D til BIM. Så ordet er dit, Nina.
I was asked to do this in English, but if you want to interrupt me and ask questions, you can do it in Danish, and I will try to understand. Otherwise, I have my colleague Marie-Louise there that can try to translate it to me. But if you'd rather me do this in Swedish, I'd be happy to, but I speak very fast in Swedish, so I don't think you'd like that. My name is Nina, as he told you, and my background is that I've been working with CAD and BIM since '89 in different roles, both as a reseller but also in my own business, where we have focused on methods, how to use these tools in an efficient way. Before I started at White, which I did in August last year, I worked at CAD-Q, where I was responsible, together with a colleague, to launch Revit in Sweden. And I also was responsible to establish a completely new market area for them called industrial building. So I spent several of years in Småland. Do you know where Småland is? At all these small house industries, implementing the BIM systems into their offices. So, and that was very, I don't think I'd know so much about BIM if I hadn't done that, because everything really has to be correct in their world. You can't put up a nail like, yeah, we'll put it here, because there's actually a machine in the end that's going to nail it. And the machine doesn't understand built as you feel like on place. That's not a machine way to think. So I think that once I learned a lot about the technique, really, that there is no short ways to do this. You have to map the information. You have to understand that what information do I need at what point, in what format, and who's going to use it, and what are they going to use it to do, what are they going to use it for. So that's one of the things I learned. The other things that I learned the hard way was change management. Change management was something completely new for me, because I was the head project manager of this big implementation projects. And it went really well. The technique was running really fine. And it happened several times. Just in the end, when we were almost done, the whole project group of the company would just say, no, this doesn't work. And I go, okay, it doesn't work. But the technique really worked. But then when I start asking them, what is the actual problem? It all came down to that one drawing didn't look the same way, the exact same way as it did in the old system. So a dotted line didn't look dotted because it was, and then you're like, what? You have this whole new system where you can actually show the information in 3D, in section, with information, with everything, and you're hung up on this drawing not looking exactly the same. So we had to bring in the management of the companies and start these change management train. The change train, process train, I want to say this before because this is actually very important, but then I don't have to say it in the presentation. The change process train can have 4 carriers, I think that's called in English. The first one is populated with the visionaries, the people that really like new stuff. The first ones to think that all news is so cool. They really want to adapt it straight away and try it. The last carrier is populated with people who think everything new is something dangerous. This is never going to work. It was a lot better before. It's working perfectly now. Why bother? Well, you probably met those kind of people as well. In carrier 2, you have a group of people that really wants to be visionaries. They really like the visionaries. They hang around. They're like, yeah, I like this new, and I like being around those people. And then you have another carrier with the people who hasn't made up their mind. So in the first carrier, the visionaries, you have like 1 or 2 people. And in the last, like 1 or 2 as well. And in the second one, you can maybe have 5, 6. And in the third, with the ones that haven't made up your mind, you have the rest. So you can maybe like 10, 15 people sitting there in a company with that number. So what happens is that the people that are the majority changes their mind all the time. So one day they're really positive to the change, and the next day or the next moment they're really negative. And this only depends on who they've been talking to. So have they been talking to somebody in the first or second carrier, they are going to be positive. But have they been convinced that this is a problem, this is really not going to work because of, they're going to be negative. And doing change management, you have to understand that there is nothing right or wrong. It's not better to be a visionary or than it is to be in the last carrier. It's as we are humans, and we are all needed in this change process, because the one in the last carrier always have a lot of good input to the changes that are needed to be done. So you have to have patience with the people in the third carrier as well. Where was I? So I think it's very important to understand, to have patience, because you cannot say that the people that don't want to adapt new techniques and new methods straight away are stupid. That's not a good attitude if you want to change something. So understanding the process train is an important part in this, learned the hard way. So I haven't taken any courses in it, I just learned it. Before I start the rest of the presentation, how we are working with this, I just want to say a few words about why, because that also has a very big impact on how we deal with this. We're a very large company. We are the largest architectural firm in Scandinavia, with about 650 employees at the moment. We have offices in Sweden and Denmark, and project offices in Norway and Great Britain. We have something called shared ownership, meaning that everybody that works at White can buy shares in the company. So this gives us a possibility to think a bit more long-term than companies that are owned in a traditional way, which also influence how we invest in certain changes in the company, how we can invest in changes. We also are very involved in research and development. We have our own research and development network, which is spread throughout the company and implemented in the projects. And that is something that's going to be even more important in the future. But these three are really key issues for what we're doing. This is another one. As you can see, we work with several of disciplines. We don't only have the architecture. We have landscape, we have design, we have project management, sustainability, urban design, visualization, and interior design, which makes it even more interesting to work with these changes that we are in the middle of to work with. Me, myself, and I'm responsible for a department called ITC Methodology, which is a central organization, so I'm also responsible for the solutions that we use here in Denmark. Even though I don't know how to do it, I don't know your standards as well, but I know the strategics. We are about 5 people at the moment, I'll say there. And we also have some methodology conductors for each discipline, the disciplines I showed you in the picture before, that works as ordinary employees in projects, but are also involved in developing solutions with us. And then we also have at each office, we have an ITC methodology resource, which is employed by the office, but acts as our point of contact and is also a part of the office management. The lead stars that we work with is development. Everybody that works with me loves development. We love to find new solutions and look for new solutions. We also set service at the top rate, meaning that we always want to help the users to perform better than the client expects, meaning that we really have to understand the client needs. We also have quality as one of our lead stars, meaning that what we do should hold high quality, which also have a consequence that everything doesn't move as fast as some people want, of course. And of course, the last one, joy. We want to have fun when we work. And this also says a lot about that the solutions that we work with. It's very important that we do them in a way so they are easy to use. There are two main areas. One is methodology and solutions for general office software, because we're not only responsible for the tools regarding CAD and BIM and 3D, we're also responsible for, as we just did, to implement Office, the new version of Microsoft Office. So it's a really wide variation. And we have the other one, digital design methodology, which include methodology, tools, development, design, routines, processes, etc. And there you'll find 2D, 3D BIM, and something we call D-Search. And D-Search is an environment and a network which work with digital design development, and mainly today it's been working with parametric design, tools for parametric design. And I will in a while show you some examples from projects, and there I will tell you what tools we're using. But that's how technical I'm going to get in this presentation. Otherwise, it will be just strategic information. So what we do is custom design systems within the projects, where we try to optimize design and also costs, as you will see in the examples. And this is just a list of what we do, just to show you where we're at the moment, and how much there is to work with. And also, this is a good picture for you where we are in Sweden. We are about to define the new roles in projects called model manager and content manager, and that will go into our quality systems. So when everybody is setting up a new project, they will make sure to point out somebody to be model manager and content manager. We're also defining other roles like external roles. As you see, we have this quality system that needs to be updated. It's not updated to the new conditions that come with 3D and BIM, meaning that when you're doing business deals, you have to think another way and maybe price it in another way than you have done before. So that's where quality system also includes the business part, actually. We also work with software development. We are about to launch our first version of white tools, we could call it, which includes a white unique template, white unique content plugins that we have developed ourselves in-house. And we also are looking at a new type of solutions called BIM 2.0. And if we have some time, I'd love to tell you something about that, but I'm not going to take time to that now. We also work with methodology development, naturally connected to the software development. We are also just about to launch something called White Help. This is a picture of that. It's a web-based a web-based solution which is integrated into Revit for all the instructions, for tips, tricks, such as, so you will actually reach those within Revit. So we can actually spread the most efficient way of doing things straight to our users. And we also just hired, after New Year's, we hired a new, our own professional educator, which moves around into all the offices and holds classes. And with that, we are also about to form a certification system with different levels of knowledge in Revit to start with, and then we're moving to Navis. And then we also work with project-specific development. When you have some needs in the projects, I will show you some examples of that. This is an example where in a project where the client demanded 2 different environmental class. What was that called? The classes, miljöklassning. Oh, you understand what I mean? Thank you. One which is passive house. I don't know if you have that in Norway. And the other one is very Swedish. But you know, in passive house, it's not really good to have a lot of windows, right? And the Swedish one, where they had a really high level ambition, you want a lot of windows. So this is where you have to try to explain to the client, this is really contradictory. These don't go together. We have to do a compromise. But we also have to do some thinking about the design. How are we going to elaborate with this? What's okay, what's not okay? So we developed a plugin that shows the relations in the rooms. Which rooms are within one of the Swedish class are green marked. Those are okay. The red ones are not okay. How are we going to work with this? And then we have a tool to experiment ourselves, but we also have a tool to communicate with the client around this. And this is another example of project-specific development that we've been doing. This is done in a completely different company called White Tengbom Team, because this is the big hospital in Sweden being built at the moment. And that's actually 2 architectural firms in that. But this is such a large project, so in order to handle everything that needs to be handled, all the information, all the drawings, all the files, all the content, we really have pushed Revit as far as possible. And therefore we have found it necessary to do a lot of development. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is that it's not fun to end up sitting doing one thing for months. And also for the case that you actually also get more higher quality out of it. So these are some of the customizations or the development that's been done. This is one example that I'd like to show you, because this is such a good example on how much time you can earn. Remember, it's a large project. This is a function that now it's in Swedish down there and English there. That's because I didn't have the time to translate everything. But this is a function that actually exports automatically PDFs and DWGs and IFCs actually as well. And this, here you see, this is what they save each week during the whole project with this function. So no matter what, no matter what this costed to develop, you're gonna earn that pretty fast in a project like this. And also you're gonna get it right. Okay, how did the journey start? It started about 2007, and then I wasn't in the company. So I've done an analysis of what happened, and I've actually checked it with a lot of people inside White to make sure that I've understood it right. Somebody had a bright idea and just said, let's go Revit and BIM. And that's pretty early 2007 to say that. But they just said it like this. And parallelly, they said, oh, we also need a lab environment. Let's call it research. So, and they didn't make any strategic documents telling why and how, or they just kind of, yeah, let's do it. So what happened is that everybody saw this huge BIM mountain. And up on the top here, all the fun was. There was efficiency, there was profitability, control, fun, pictures. But the people that were going to get there had no idea what tools to use, and they had no idea what roads to take. So this was kind of, I mean, my interpretation of this is that it kind of made them afraid to do anything at all. Because, as Homer says here, trying might be the first step towards failure. So you get people that are a bit afraid and not very positive to the tools or the technique and such on. So what I've been working a lot with since I started is actually trying to get the organization to understand that we are in a change situation. We are in a change process. So there's a document created now that's called 3D BIM for why and how. This contains the main reasons for us to go to 3D and BIM. As you see, there are some reasons that concern the changes in the industry that we want to lead and influence this development. And we also want to attract young employees, and the tools that are used in the educations today are the modern tools, so we have to know them, we have to have them. And also, of course, the most important there is to keep ahead of the client demands and be advisories to them. We also see a lot of potential in new business, building new business models, selling instead of selling hours all the time, try to sell information deliveries. As an example, I don't have any answers for this yet, but we are setting a process to work with it. It's still a little, okay. It's worse in my ears, but. And the third one is about architectural, and that's one where we see a potential to develop the role that we have in the projects. In Sweden, we don't have. I think that architects in Denmark have a stronger role than we do in Sweden. We kind of backed off for the entrepreneurs. That's not the name in contractors is the English word for it. And it's time to take it back, and I think this is a good opportunity to do so, because this is complex for the owners. It's very hard for them to understand what's the benefit for them, how are they going to use it, what information are they going to get into their system, and how are they going to get the information in there, and how are they going to make sure that when the design is done, how are they going to make sure that the information gets in there. And that's where we see a big potential to take that role. We also see that it's not only the 3D and BIM that makes it more complex for the clients, it's also all these new aspects of environmental demands that are getting higher and higher. It's very important that we make this easy for the client to understand. Like I showed you the plugin that we did, that if I say that this is the requirement in this project, what consequence will that be? So that we have visualization tools that actually can show this in an understandable way, not in a report that only an environmental engineer will understand, but in pictures, in diagrams. And also, lastly but not less important, is that we also see a possibility to do something we can't do architectural-wise with this. The document also contains and clarifies the most important differences between AutoCAD and Revit, and that is just for them to see the benefits in moving to Revit instead of stay in AutoCAD. And the most important one is, of course, the first one there, that you get a lot less files. but also the second one where you have that you get higher quality within with throughout the process with 3D. And then the third one is that that you have the possibility to add metadata, which also gives the possibility to do new business models. And the other part of this document is about the strategy, and the strategy is not completely finished. It needs a vision, and we need some goals. So you're going to see it as is now. The first part is about definitions. In a big company like ours, it's very important that we understand things the same way. So we made our own definition for BIM, since there isn't any overall definition. We made our own. What's BIM to us and our clients? How is this useful for our clients? How are we going to use it to make benefits for our clients for that? What's 3D in comparison to BIM? Because this is like the most, this is like what I don't know how many times I've talked about this when launching Revit in Sweden, the difference between 3D and BIM. But we have to do it, we have to do that clarification as well. And then search that I talked to, so that we get everything clear. And we also have to point out that Revit is not just a tool, or BIM is not just a tool. It's also a process, it's a methodology, and it's a possibility of new offers. And this is the hardest one for them to understand. And then how in the strategies, the other part is how are we going to get there? The big picture is that we develop design methodology and implement that. And to that we add business development and establishing of new offers, which will result in new wider businesses and lead position in the market. So this is like the key formula that the strategy is built on. So seeing that this stair is one of the stairs that we have. This is the stair describing the business development part. It has 4 levels, and I made a decision not to put out dates here because I don't want to stress anybody. And the thing is, under each stair, I don't know if you in the back can see, we have offers. And now this is in Swedish because this was too much for me. But then you have the offers, and you have, like, for an example, 3D design with better quality and pictures as for making better decisions. So these offers should be phrased so that the benefit for the client is clear. Okay, so the level 1 stair is mainly about 3D. And this is, which I will explain when I go through the projects, this is where we are at and what's really reasonable to get a majority of projects into this year. We also added custom solutions for advanced architectural design. This one, the parametric design part that I was talking about, research, this is something that's been doing without adding any costs to the projects so far. But we are going to try to make it an offer to the market as well. Level 2 and 3 look the same because they have like the same offers, but it's the amount of offers that differs those two. And then level 4 is about the facility management models and information deliveries to them. So from this stair, you get new needs from the projects. Clients wanting something that we haven't listed or something that we have listed. And to that, and those go into a forum where we discuss, prioritize, what offers to develop, what methodology and solutions to develop. And the lead star for everything that we do is architecture quality, which for us means what the client experience in the end. What's important for the client? Is it the branding? Is it a feeling? What's the importance in the in the project. The other stair, which is the exactly same stair, but instead of saying offers, it says solutions and methodology for the same things. So these go parallelly. So, and from this stair, you get tips about possibilities. So the people that work with this look for new things that can be used, that makes the projects more efficient, or it's a possibility to make a new offer and add that to the forum. So it looks like this summary, that you get the new offers that are needed from the projects, and you get hints of new possibilities into the forum, and in the end you get new offers with associated tools and methodology in the end. And there you go, you have continuous development of business solution and methodology. And some experiences from projects. And no questions? You can interrupt me. Or am I making sense so far? Okay. This is a project where we've used the parametric design technique, it was used in a competition which we won. It's actually a landscape project in Uppsala in Sweden. It's a large sofa. Can you see it? Which contains a lot of upplevelse. Tack. As you can see here, it's a sofa. It's some. I right over there. Some flowers. There's music. There's somewhere where you can drink. And it's also, as you can see, lit in the middle. The things that are hang here. So they made a tool so that the people that work with this project can experiment and move these things around. And in the end, you can actually create production drawings from the system. So this is used where we used Rhino and Grasshopper for this, and some very good minds to think it through. This is another example of the same technique. It's also in Uppsala actually. It's a galleria where they wanted to put the vad heter det då? Kakelplattor. Tack. The tiles in a pattern that made it clear for everybody how they were going to walk through the galleria. So this is the tool that the architects could work with. So somebody created the tool for the architect to work with, so they can experiment and see. So this is like a mock-up on how they wanted it to be. And it was actually as detailed so that the one that created all this on the site could have used it, but they didn't. But and here is a picture from that. It's not a very good picture, I see. This is a third example of the same type of technique. It's not built. It's Quality Arena Hotel, and this is interesting because it's used for interior design. It's not. Most people think that parametric design is something that you use for facades, but that's why I want to show you what a variation of things it can be used for, so that you kind of see the possibilities. And the technique that is used in Rhino and Grasshopper is on its way into Revit. I was myself on a workshop at Autodesk University where I tested it. It was very buggy. It was a connection to Vasari at that moment, but it's under development to get the same kind of technique. It's a programming. But this is this is like a concert hall or a conference hall in the middle of the hotel. You see, it's a very strategic place in the hotel. So they wanted to do something spectacular that was visible inside the hotel as well. So they ended up with a shape of this conference hall where these are lamels in in wood, and these are some facets things, so they can actually analyze how the connections to these things are, so that you can kind of get light into these hole as well from the facades. This is this is a real BIM project. This is a Revit BIM project, and this is so interesting because we used almost every tool there is in this project. It's being built at the moment. Have you heard about this before? Anybody? Okay, I don't know what's happened in Stockholm, but suddenly we need arenas. So we're building this huge arena on the south of Stockholm, and we're building an even larger on the north at the same time. And everybody's saying, well, where are all the people that's going to go to these arenas? But anyhow, it's fun that White got to do this one. The facade here that you see here is done in Rhino and Grasshopper as well. And it's imported into Revit in order to do drawings, detailing, and visualization. All the visualization in the project, apart from the ones that we're going to go to the press, is done directly from the model and together with the people that were actually working in the project. And SketchUp was used to create the future, to visualize and create the future. So it's kind of a challenge to get all these systems to work. And also the model is huge. And another very interesting thing with this project is that Revit was used for landscaping, which it's not supposed to be used for. But it worked out really, really well. We had this young guy, which is really a visionary, who really explored Revit. And there are some really negative things about using Revit for landscaping, but the positive things are heavier than the negative. And it's mostly about communication, the positive things, because it's hard for a client to understand different solutions when there are only lines drawn. And so they used it to do all the surfaces outside the arena, but also some detailing there to do. Oh wait, when you had the skitsamma. So you see how, and the benefit here is that we had the Revit A model in as well to use, so they go together really fine. Oh, here is some detailing that were done as well in the landscape part. That's what I was trying to say, but couldn't find the words. Another, which is more of how did this work? How did you get a large project like this to work? Which I think is an important tip to mention, is that they put in a view in Revit where they put all the important information that was needed to make things right. It's a very easy way to do it. I just wanted to say that. And these are some of the experiences. I interviewed about 10 to 15 people in White from different projects in order to understand where we are at. And Carina Hilleray, she was the model manager, head model manager of this project. And Björn Norén, he is like 65 years old. He was the one that implemented 2D CAD into White. Okay, so you kind of get the differences between those. So you can probably see exactly who said what. It takes a lot of resources to implement new software and methodology, and it also demands engagements from the co-workers. Yeah, they both said that, actually. The role BIM coordinator is very important for the outcome, and that's, of course, they have to understand what's needed in the project, what needs to go into the model. And this is what Björn said, though, who implemented 2D CAD. He said, it's just as hard to move from pen and paper to 2D CAD as it is to move from 2D to 3D and BIM. And that's just a really good perspective to understand and to have some patience with these changes. Even though we have understood the benefits, we have to understand that it takes different amount of time for different people. What proved to be important in order to work efficiency was a clear organization, and you're going to see that in the other projects that I'm going to show as well, that this is like the most important part to get BIM projects to work really well. And the client requirements needs to be identified as early as possible. And they also work with this large type of, when projects are these large, you have to work proactive. You have to find what can be a problem in the future and test it and test solutions for it, so you don't run into problems and then have to solve it as much as possible. But of course everything can't be solved that way. And to inform and train and communicate is essential, and that was Carina who said that, who was the head model manager. So I really want to stress that one. The result, it's being built at the moment, and you can say the most difficult part in this project was that the structural engineer did their design in Tekla, and we had a lot of problem with the IFC model. But apart from that, the project is running according to budget and time frame, and the client has paid the extra costs that were needed, because this is one of the first real BIM projects of this size in Sweden. Another one is in Örebro. It's it's an education. It's like a campus for doctor education. Some pictures from that. They had to convince the client to use Revit. And the selling pitch was 3D in order to get the higher quality. They were really worried that this wasn't going to work because of a really tight time frame, and they didn't know Revit at all when they started, which is really brave to go into a new project with a whole group where nobody knew how to do it, actually. Important to note this, the things that I think is important to stress there under proved to be important is that they tried to convince the project management that the project would gain time and money if they put in more effort in the beginning of the project, which is one of the key win-win factors for BIM, actually. But that didn't work. But why keep trying? I think that's important to keep trying and get people to understand that. And what's really fun about the result is that the project is running fine, and they're having fun. And that's what the manager at this office says. Says the most positive thing is that people that works with Revit and 3D are having fun at work. And that's pretty interesting. This is an example from Malmö. And this is a fun project because business-wise, because this client said that I want 2D. I don't want to pay for 3D. And Malin, who was responsible for the project, said, okay, you get 2D, but we will do it in Revit. And he said, okay, but I don't want to pay for 3D. So when they calculated how much this was going to cost, they looked at a sister project that was done a couple of years earlier, and it was done in AutoCAD. So they took the same amount of hours that they took for that project and said, okay, we're going to use these hours for this project as well. So they went to the client with that, and they tried to get, and then they put the hour rate behind, and the client said, no, that's too high. You have to go down on the hour rate. This is what happens when you go with hour. So she said, okay. They backed home, and they said, all right, let's back down to another hour rate and give them a fixed price. So they backed down on the hour rate and gave them a fixed price, but they wanted the 2,000 hours in order to make this to be able to do it. In the end, they used 1,600 hours, which is 400 less, which actually meant that they got the hour rate that they wanted to start with. That's the really fun part. Apart from that, it was successful, and the client was, and it was for some really funny discussions between the client and Malin, where the client said, well, I want some 3D here now. I know that you're doing this in 3D. And she goes, no, you haven't paid for that. And he goes, well, I know you have it. Everybody else gives it to me. Yeah, but listen, you've paid for black and white. Why do you expect to get color for the same price? Takes some guts to do that. I think it's funny. This is the office in white that has by far come the furthest with 3D and BIM. Actually, it's in Umeå. And it's interesting to inform you about them, because there's some very important stuff there. Why have they succeeded? About 80% of their projects is done in 3D with Revit, and some of them are actual BIM projects as well. He is a former user of ArchiCAD. I think that's one of the secrets. But I think what's really important here is that attitude is everything. The management has the right attitude, therefore you get the results. And he says something. He says marvelous things. He says, "How can an architect survive without knowing these tools?" And we are earning money, we're gaining projects, and that's because of Revit. I mean, he says all these things, not me asking him, could you say these? He actually says them himself. So this is very interesting, that it works, and they're earning a lot of money in using it. They're having some problems in getting the client to understand the benefits of BIM, the information part of it. But they're getting there. At one point, they actually did a real BIM project and took out production drawings as well. Lessons that we are learning, and make sure now it says are learning. We haven't learned them, we are in the process to learn. 4 important overall, and overall I mean like for the management in the company. It's very important that everybody in the company takes the responsibility to learn about 3D BIM and Revit at some level. I mean, everybody doesn't have to be able to open Revit and draw in it, but they have to understand the sense of it. So if you're in the management, you should at least understand how the processes work, how the influences our offers to the market, and so on. And that's also why we are developing the classification system in the training, in order to get that clear. If I have this role, what classification level should I be in? The other one is that we need to do workshops with the clients where we can learn, we can teach the clients what 3D and BIM is, but we can also learn from them what their needs are. And this is the very first important step in order to understand how are we going to do this advisory part. What do they really need in the advisory part, and what's important in our projects. So we're actually planning to do this in fall. We also need forums to exchange experiences, because this is something new. You can't decide a business model. You can't decide things straight away. You need to have like a lab. Lab is mostly connected to something that you have when you talk technical solutions, but you need labs for doing business, doing contracts, things like that. What's good? What has worked? What's best practice? And we also need to establish this forum for developing business technique and methodology that I showed you in the strategy. And then I have several of very specific ones, but I'm not going to go through those because I don't have the time for that. Where next? Well, I think that being a multidisciplinary company with the shared ownership, our own research and development, and a powerful ICT methodology department, we will soon experience an extended advisory role that we're actually taking it. And we will also experience how we continuously develop our architecture, our tools, processes, methodology, and business from project and client needs. And all with focus on our lead star, the architectural quality. So this is what I'm going to put up. We're getting a place now with this department are sitting all by himself. I'm going to put this up. So that we get people to understand that it's possible. We're doing it. So if they don't think it can be done, stand away.
Perfect. It's really, really interesting, this process, this change process that you're going through. So there must be a lot of questions. So we can take the questions in Danish if you want to. So put up your hands and let's get some good questions when we have the change expert here. Yep.
Hello. Hello, my name is Peter. I'm from IKEA in Copenhagen. I wondered if you tried to use any new procurement methods, and if that's the case, which ones and how did it work?
Procurement, is that... Is it
tenderings?
So your offert, anbud.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. I'm actually now changing the procurement template and also the procurement analysis tool that we have, and adapting it to 3D and BIM. In order to get the most important part is actually about showing the responsibilities and clearly state that this is not a completely new offer. It's another type. It's another way. It's another type of project, but it's and we deliver different things. So we getting down to the information deliveries. We're changing to that, but we're also delivering the traditional drawings and everything as well, because that's needed. The pricing is the hard part. Yeah.
Ja, flere spørgsmål?
How do you get the contractors to work with your BIM philosophy and all the stuff that they have to do in the actual process to work with 3D maybe on the building side and stuff like that? Because most of them need a lot of extra education if they're not a part of your company.
Yeah.
So who pays for that, or if they at all want to go into the whole BIM thinking?
That's where the workshops come in, actually. But in Sweden we have 3 big contractors. We have NCC, Peab, and Skanska. They really, all 3 of them have central organizations that are really, really good at BIM and 3D. Really good. But they have a hard time getting that out into the rest of the organization. So locally, if you go to Halmstad, for example, where we have an office, that they have their first BIM project as is now. So it takes time for them as well to get this out. But this is what we do is we think of it as a teaching process where we teach each other, meaning that we can tell them this has worked in other projects, and they can say, well, we want this in order to make our calculations, so in order to do this and this and that. So what we try to do is be professional and good at asking questions, because that's really the key issue for us. We have to. Sometimes they don't even understand what information they need to give us. Do you see what I mean? So they can say like, well, we want mängder. That's what we want, the quantities, and if you stop there, you can't really put a price on quantities, because you have to take the next question. Okay, what do you want quantities of? Okay, walls, for example. Okay, you want quantities of walls. What kind of quantities do you want? Okay, and you get that. We want square meters, blah, blah, blah. Okay, how is the information going to look like? Where are you going to use it? How are you going to use it? So this is really more about, that's a way of teaching. It's actually asking the questions, and then in the end, at some point I actually got a mission now to help a contractor to draw up the what's that called? Riktlinjer. The directives on how to do the design as well. So they're getting there slowly. But in the future, I see though that we have kits. This is how we do it. This is how we do the projects. But we're not there at the moment.
But then you also have to change the whole tender process and the way you work together, because in the traditional way, the contractors get in too late for them to actually get some prices.
Yeah, I think small steps is a good strategy, actually.
Ja, flere spørgsmål. Vi kan godt tage dem på dansk. I skal ikke være nervøse. Bare op med lapperne. Som jeg sagde, så er det eksperten nu. Og det er det her, som Nina hun kæmper med. Så mange af jer, når I kommer ud og skal arbejde ude i virksomheden, de af jer, der studerer nu. Det er nogle af de her problemstillinger, som I kommer til at arbejde med og få de her ting implementeret. Så det er med at stille spørgsmålene nu. Okay. Then I have a question. We have some colleagues in Vietnam, working in Vietnam, and some great Vietnamese students. And actually this video will be sent to Vietnam tonight, so they can have the
Hi
experience.
Vietnam.
Yeah. Let's say hello to Ho Chi Minh. Hello. Yeah. But what I was thinking about is White has different departments in Denmark and in Sweden. Where is White located? You have departments in...
No, we have offices.
Offices, in Sweden and Denmark. And we work together with Vietnam now. How do you work across offices from Sweden to Denmark with the BIM process? Do you collaborate internal?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Different ways. Sometimes people, that depends on the project. I mean, if you take this large hospital project in Stockholm, we have a project office for that. So everybody there are a lot of resources that work in that office that belongs to other offices in the company. People from Malmö, Göteborg, and so on, that works there. So in that way, that you have to go to the office. Meaning that at this point we have we have a lack of resources, so everybody's kind of pulling the people that knows something about 3D and BIM into these projects. But then we have other examples from, maybe you could answer that better, how it works in Denmark and between Denmark and Malmö in the projects.
I will try in English. We have this project in Odense, the new hospital, Odense New Hospital. It's a project office we have managed to establish there, and we have had some employees from the Malmö office, and they are traveling from Malmö to Odense, and some of them stays over the night at hotels and go back in the end of the week. So they've just been imported.
Imported to Denmark.
And in the office in Nyhavn, we have them coming from Malmö as well. Daily, basic.
And you also have some architect that has been over to Malmö and worked as well.
Yeah, they just travel forward, back again.
But ICT-wise, we also have the possibility. I mean, if you work in a project, you can also belong to Gothenburg and work for a Stockholm project, be in Stockholm 2 days and work the rest of the week in your own office. I mean, it's possible to get to the information. But they are large models.
Okay. Hvis ikke der er flere spørgsmål, så synes jeg, vi skal sige rigtig mange tak til Nina, og det var Marie-Louise Ejlev fra Vejle i Danmark. Stort tak, fordi I gad at komme over. Det var rigtig
fun to be here.
Ja, tak til det. Tak til jer.